Hi, welcome to this 10-minute neck yoga sequence. This is going to be taken by Claire Beethan, who is trained in lit yoga. And hi, Claire, which is a yoga that is created by a physical therapist. And I'd like to, hopefully, this works.
Hi.
Hi,
Hello, how are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited. My neck is ready for you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
same.
I think it's great to share this because so many people are on their screens or staring on a computer. And this is, I loved how your neck sequence in the class that I did with you was short but sweet and really hit all the major muscle groups. And I love that it's also inspired by, got trained background with yoga specifically by a physical therapist. So I thought that was an interesting take. And yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I do so many different styles of yoga, but my most recent training was in lit method yoga, and the reason I came to that was because I was getting these aches and pains in my body that yoga wasn't more traditional, I guess, movement in yoga wasn't necessarily helping. So it's
Mm.
been lovely to just tweak and change my practice and now I teach like a blend of lots of things now, but definitely I learned so much when I studied lit method to just think about our kind of optimal movement patterns, and the next one of them. So like everyone
Mm.
else, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my laptop, I'm driving, and my posture is terrible. And then I'm constantly having to think when I come into yoga, is there any way that I can incorporate things in that practice that are going to just help me to be a bit more upright and to get my neck like back a little bit and happier in general, which is what we'll do
Mm.
today.
I'm so excited because, including myself, even though I do yoga, I'm also get caught up staring at my phone or at work staring at a computer screen, and I go back into some horrible neck posture. Sometimes I'm like this, like a duck, and I'm like this, and I think, oh no. So this is a great sequence to prevent um, neck soreness, and also if you have any soreness in your neck to reduce that soreness. So shall we get started?
Yeah, let's do it. So I'm sat at the minute on some like yoga bolsters, some cushions, but you can do everything we're going to do on a chair, or anywhere. You can do it on your yoga mat if you want to, but I want you to just be sat upright to begin with. So whatever's comfortable for you. And I will say before we begin that I don't want us to think that we have. I said bad posture before, and I know that posture is a big sort of talking point, but realistically, we all have to do our jobs. We all have to drive places. We all have to work. And if we become slouchy and grumpy, maybe in the neck, then, sometimes that's a part of life. And what we can do is just be kind to ourselves and do practices like this. Even if it's not an actual yoga practice on your mat, even if it's like just take a little break in your day, you're having a cup of tea and you're doing something to your neck at the same time, just thinking about variety is like the spice of life. So we'll bring a bit of that into today. Um, yeah,
That's really
just keep it moving, even when we've got
yeah.
to work. So let's start by just figuring out where our head and neck is, because sometimes we don't really know if it's forwards or if it's a bit wonky. So let's bring one hand and just bring it to your lower back. So I know you can't see that on the camera, but it's just resting on my lower back nicely. And then let's bring the other hand and take it to the back of the skull, almost that little shelfy part where your skull sits on your neck. And this is almost like there's no perfect exact place, but you're just trying to notice, is the head a lot more forwards than the lower back? Is there any way that you could imagine the two hands are one line? So we're just slightly pressing the head into the hand and we're slightly pressing into the lower back, trying to see if we can get them both lined up. Quite often the head's a little bit forwards. Mine is anyway. So the first thing I do is to think, right, get my head back so my ears are on top of my shoulders. And then just to take a couple of breaths here where you're thinking about lengthening up through the crown of the head. And what might happen is if your chin is normally a little bit up, which mine is, your chin might start to drop slightly, almost like you're lengthening the back of the neck. And for me, it sometimes feels a little like I'm going towards a double chin. It's not quite there, but it's sort of in that way. And then we can release the lower back hand, bring that hand up so we've got both hands just up behind your head. And all I want you to do is just press your head straight back into your hands and your hands into your head. So we're not going all the way back, but what we are just doing is pressing straight back, almost as if your hands is a wall behind you and you're just getting a little bit of resistance. So we're starting off by sort of strengthening. So we'll keep the chin. No, keep it down a little bit so that from the side, it's just literally like I'm pushing straight back. You can't really see that I'm doing it. If we was together in a room and I was teaching this, I wouldn't see anyone's head move, but they'd feel that they're pushing their head into their hands and their hands into their head just to get a little bit of strength. You might start to so yeah, like just holding it here. Sometimes you we'll take a couple of breaths here. So big inhale and exhale. One more breath like this. So you might start to feel more like your neck is strengthening here or holding on a little bit, which is fine. And then release. And we'll release the hands, but we'll roughly keep the head where it is. So we're just being aware that we're trying to keep the head slightly back, almost like you're just pushing back with your chin slightly and the head isn't creeping forwards. What we're going to do next. So sitting up as tall as you can. Maybe your shoulders can relax now because the arms were up. Let's let, on Instagram, I don't know if it mirrors or not, so if I'm going the wrong way, just ignore that. But we'll go right here, first of all. We'll go right here to the right shoulder. Sometimes Instagram flips the video, so it doesn't matter. You're just going to let the head go straight to the side. And notice if it's crept forward. If it's crept forward, bring yourself back up. Think head slightly back and then straight. So you're thinking like you're taking your ear towards the shoulder. Stay here for a couple of breaths. This is almost just letting the head release, using a bit of gravity. And if you want to, again, it's not on the camera, but my left hand, so the hand away from my head, can reach out towards the left-hand side. Or if you're sat on the floor, your left hand can come down onto the ground and it can just walk away from you a little bit until you find maybe more of a feeling that comes up the shoulder, maybe more of a feeling that comes up into the neck.
Oh, that's really
and then
nice. I love
you found it? There we go. Yeah, you just have to find it for yourself. And then let's play whilst we're here. So again, very individual, very unique. We're all unique people. Our chin might start to point a little up towards the ceiling and a little bit down towards the floor, almost like you're very gently saying no with your head. And I just naturally always close my eyes when I'm doing this, so you're welcome to as well. And I want you to find a little place that feels good for you. So everyone's a slightly different angle. When you find this kind of line of tension in the neck, in the shoulder, staying there. The other thing you can do is adjust where your left shoulder is here too. So if you feel like your left shoulder needs to pull back slightly, lift up, lower down. And then when you find a place that just feels good for you, take a couple of deep breaths there. With the breathing, we won't go into it too much, but really just trying to use those exhales to let your body know that you're safe, everything is good. Okay, and slightly different from where we are now. We'll keep the head to this side, but I want you to start to tip your chin, so almost like you're looking down onto your right shoulder, maybe even down towards the floor just next to you. So you'll really turn your chin in towards the chest and see how this feels for the neck, for the shoulder. Again, explore what it feels like if the left shoulder is forwards, if the left shoulder is back, up, down, until you find a little sweet spot that's just for you. Found it? Yeah. It's always nice when you just get that place and you're like, oh, yeah, this is a nice spot. And we'll take the head back where it just came from. So we're still leaning it right ear to right shoulder, but your chin is now pointing forward. So just think straight right ear, right shoulder. Yeah, you got it. Right hand's going to come up. We're going to bring that hand over your head and let it rest on the left side of your head, maybe your ear, maybe just the head. And this isn't like pulling, this is just like your hand is nice and heavy and it's letting the weight pour into the side of the head.
Okay.
One more breath here. Okay, to come out of this, we'll release the hand first, bring it down, and then just let's roll the head chin to chest. You might just want a tiny little wiggle side to side when you're here. If there's any little natural movements you want to take at any point, you just add them in. And then very gently, very slowly, let your head just kind of float back up on top of your spine. Nice. I often want to get the shoulders involved as well, don't you? You start to feel like it's all connected. Let's try that on the second side. So already there might be a different feeling, one side of the neck to the other, perhaps. Let's take the left ear just straight to the left shoulder. And actually, before we do that, just thinking head back a little bit, almost like if there was a wall behind us. And in fact, if you ever want to do this at home, do it where you're sat back against the wall. And as you take your head to the side, making sure the back of the skull is still touching the wall, it's such a different feeling because quite often we start to just creep it forwards because we're so used to that. And just let your ear drop, think heavy head. Same options here. The right hand can be on your thigh. The right hand can come to the ground. I like to have my right fingers, if I'm sat on the floor, I'm sat on a cushion right now, but if I'm sat on the floor, I like to put my right fingers on the floor and just walk them away from my body a little bit until it enhances that stretch. You can always just reach your right arm wide as well. And with any of these things, there is no one size fits all. So you're just trying to find that right place for you. Spend a couple of breaths here, just heaviness with the head. And we'll start to tip your chin down and up. This isn't a fast thing. It's almost like you're not just trying to say no like this with the head. It's almost like you're trying to search for a nice place for you. So as you tip the chin around and you change the angle of your head until you find a place where you're like, ah, yeah, that's for me today. Again, with the right shoulder, it might stay as it is. It might roll back a little bit. It might move forwards, backwards, up, down until you find one little place. It doesn't have to be this massive, massive feeling either. Sometimes people are searching for this place that's going to suddenly feel huge. And actually, it could be quite subtle in your body. And coming back into your breath. Big exhale. Changing it from here, we'll start to look down at your left shoulder. So we're just thinking, I mean, you might actually be able to look at it or looking down at the floor next to you. And again, just a couple of breaths here. And once you get into, just like any yoga pose, I always encourage people to then, okay, we found the position, now what? So it's very much like, well, play with things, tweak things, find the place that feels the best in your body. And then we'll turn the head back where it just came from. So you're looking forwards, but your ear is to your shoulder and your left hand comes up, comes onto the side of your head. That's it. And then just a heavy hand. Let the weight just pour into the head. I quite like here to just let this right shoulder kind of drop down a little bit. See how that feels, maybe just to let it be heavy. And then to come out of this, we'll bring your left hand back down first. So we just let the head stay as it is for now. Gently roll chin into the chest. So you're going to be looking straight down. Stay here for a moment. Maybe wiggle. I love a wiggle. And then I do. I just wiggle all the time in my practice. And we'll float the head slowly back up on top of your spine. Just take one hand behind your head for a moment and think about that same thing of just pressing back a little bit into your hand without tipping the chin up. So it's just straight back, almost like you're pressing it into a wall behind you. And then bring your other hand up. We're going to end with this. I love this. It's like a release for the back of the top back of your neck. So it's hard, I guess, on Instagram to see properly, but I'm not going to be rounding my whole spine. So my spine is going to be staying as upright as possible. And the only part of my spine that is going to move is my neck. So we're just going to think chin to the chest, and the elbows will probably draw in. And your hands are just going to be heavy on the back of the skull. It's almost very close to where my hair is ending, the hairline on the back. You'll find the place that works for you. And then as you stay here, I want you to keep thinking sit up tall, but just let the chin drop in. And the hands are just heavy. They're just adding some weight. If I do this properly, I can't speak at the same time. So I'm just doing a sort of 75% of it. Because if you're doing it properly, you're really allowing that weight, and your jaw, your chin would be in, and it would be a little bit difficult to speak. Spending just a couple of breaths here. And actually, whilst you're here, you can almost imagine with the hands, imagine they're almost very slightly gripping the skin, the hair of your skull, and lifting slightly up towards the very crown of your head. So it's almost like the tiniest little sensation. Obviously, if it pulls your hair, you don't need to do that.
Oh yeah, that
The
makes
other
a
thing that
big,
can,
yeah, that
yeah, you
feels
found
good.
that little change?
Yeah.
Tiny, tiny difference. But yeah, it's almost like you're just sliding your hand slightly up, but taking the skin with you. Another thing you can do here, if it feels nice, is you can release your thumbs a little bit, and the thumbs can massage into any of those little dents around the back of the neck,
Oh my God. Yeah.
little spots that feel great. And then keep your chin to your chest. We'll leave the head here, but we'll just release the hands down for a moment. Let the head just hang heavy. And then super slow, like we did before, let's roll up through the neck. So you're just thinking about restacking your spine, thinking as you get to the top about keeping the head up so that the ears are above the shoulders. And then maybe let's just roll the shoulders to end. How do you feel?
Oh, I automatically feel a really good release, especially through the
Mm.
back of my neck, where I find tension and my
Yeah.
suboccipital, yeah, my
Yeah,
suboccipital
yeah.
gets
Yeah, yeah.
so small. So that massaging was really nice. And this area, yeah, I love doing this. I often do this just for myself. I love the side release, and it's so simple. Just doing it with the weight of your head and not adding. Like you can do this anywhere. You can just be sitting at a bus, or you can be like, oh, and you feel a stretch, and then just changing that
Totally.
chin. So simple, but you're hitting the main muscle groups there, right?
Exactly. And I'm a big believer in like less is more in a way. Like we don't even have to roll out our yoga mats. If we're living very busy lives, it might just be that you said we're waiting for a bus and we just do a couple of these things that don't look too strange in public. Or even you're in your car at traffic lights and you can just do something, or you can just think about where is my head, where is my neck, strengthening it as well as stretching it. Um, but one thing I will say as well is something that made a big change for me, for everyone here who does practice yoga asana, is even in things like a plank pose, making sure that I used to just, I guess I just used to let my head kind of dangle a little bit. And now I
Mm.
think about this kind of getting my head back, even when I'm in like a plank, so that if you were to look at me from the side, you can see that I'm trying to keep my neck long and strong. Because the one thing I'll say about the neck is we really want to stretch it all the time because it feels really good, right? But we also probably need to have some strength there as well. So if we do some stretching and some strengthening together, then to me, that's the ideal of what we want our necks to do. It's like a little bit stronger and also just that nice release too.
Perfect. And we have a question by Kathy.
Yeah.
Pain is almost gone, which is fantastic.
Woo.
And he's asked, can you kindly clarify where should you hold the hands behind the back? Or maybe I'll turn to the side and maybe like
Behind the head.
behind the head.
Yeah. I mean, my
Like,
hair is up, so this is pretty useful actually to show. I'll show
yeah.
on mine. Apologies for my hair. So I interlace my fingers, and there's a little spot, there's a kind of ledge here. So if you feel up your neck, you then suddenly feel the skull. It changes from neck to like the bottom of the skull. So I'd
Mm.
interlace my fingers, I'd slide them up the neck, up, 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 until you feel this kind of where you're just holding the base of the skull. And that's a nice place. To me, that's where my hair ends, but obviously I know it's different person to person. If I'm massaging, the thumbs might just come out and go in here. And then I'm sort of thinking about just pulling slightly up with my hands if I want to do that as well. Those are just optional things to add on. I think most importantly, it's at the end of the day, I always say, what feels good? You know, you try it for yourself, because I can only tell you, like, oh, well, I think this place is the best for my body. But if you're trying it and you're like, do you know what? It feels better for me to be higher than that or lower than that, then absolutely do that instead. You're not going to break. You'll be fine. I know we don't have to do it correctly. You just have to do what feels great for you.
That's
Got
great
it.
advice.
Amazing.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, I'm so happy. See, he's already helping
I
people.
know.
Of
And
all
thank you
around
for
the world.
anyone who, I can see a couple of people joined in live as well, which is amazing. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
Thank you so much, Claire. Can you please tell people like where they can find you for more of your classes and more lit yoga?
Totally, absolutely. So if you are interested in lit yoga, I will first of all direct you to my teacher, a woman called Lara Hyman, or you can search Lit Method Yoga. Lit is LYT. That's to find out more about the method that I've trained in, that I predominantly teach. For me and everything that I offer, I'm on Instagram at Claire Beth and Yoga. You can find me there. I'm most active on Instagram. I do teach online once a week, and I teach in person in Manchester. And I have a lot of yoga retreats coming up next year. So if you're a yoga retreat kind of person, keep your eyes peeled. That's what I'm super excited about right now.
And you're also a SUP yoga teacher.
I am. I teach paddleboard yoga, which you sadly didn't do with me, right? You did yoga on land. We didn't even get to do that together. But yes, in the summer, paddleboard yoga is definitely, yeah, it's amazing. It's really fun.
Yeah, I'll book in for maybe one of those classes one day. And one more question. I'm not sure if this
Yeah,
one
sure.
more down. Performing headstands without balancing arms. If collapsed, what to do immediately? Headstands without balancing arms.
My personal preference at the moment with headstand, which might change because I'm always changing my mind on everything, I don't practice it. I used to. I've chosen now that it's not something I practice a lot of, if at all. I don't remember the last time I practiced headstand. I don't want to say it's horrible for you or anything like that. I think everything has its pros and its cons and has a place. But the more I learned about how much I need to strengthen my neck personally for me, and how my neck was a little bit forwards all the time, for me to then flip that upside down and to put weight on it, I decided that in terms of long-term neck strength and health, it probably wasn't the best for me. So I actually try and practice more forearm stand and handstand now. I'm not very good at them, but actually, do you know what? There's more of a challenge. There's more of a journey there. So I'm not the right person to advise on headstand, but I also just think, keep your neck safe. It's a very important part of the body. So happy neck.
And I actually don't do headstands without my arms. Like, so when I perform
Oh, yeah,
headstand,
no.
I know people can do, but that's very advanced practice. And you would need strength, core, your whole body strength to be an alignment, to be perfect, not to damage your cartilage in your neck and cause permanent nerve damage, which is very difficult to
Yeah.
reverse once you cause that damage. So when performing headstands, I advise you, Kartu, to be very, very careful, and often please go to a trained instructor who can guide you
Hmm.
one-on-one correctly before you do these headstands without your arms. Otherwise, you can cause major damage to your body. So that's
Yeah.
one thing I would advise, because it's a
And
dangerous practice if you don't know how to do it properly.
to say on that as well, one of the things that changed my mind for me was my teacher. My teacher was telling me it's not so great for the neck and stuff, and I was like, yeah, okay. Um, but she used to work with stroke patients and patients that had many different neurological issues, and she just said, the neck isn't just bones and everything. The neck is like all the messages from your brain to your body. Like it's this highway of
Mm,
information, and it goes through the
mm,
neck. And so like it's not just about, oh, we want the neck to look a certain way or we want it to be strong. It's also like this is how we the messaging goes up and down through that channel. And that really shifted it for me. I was like, oh my goodness, actually, yeah, that is so important, that is a place in my body that I respect and I'm really cautious about. Not to be like too cautious, like movement is amazing, but like you said, always go to a qualified teacher who is going to keep you safe and going to get you strong and gonna, like, if that's your goal, that's totally fine, but there's a good way of going about it and there's a slightly more dangerous way of going about it. So always, going to the right person.
yeah, and you can get the same benefits of a headstand with more basic inversion practices, like legs up the
Hmm.
wall. You can read a Qurani, right? So
Yeah.
don't feel pressured like to you have to do this pose, this advanced posture to get the benefits. Which is the purpose of doing these poses to obtain the benefits.
Yeah. Exactly. No, I'm with you. Totally.
Oh, thank you so much, Claire, for sharing your perspective and your time and sequence with us today. And
Thank you.
yeah, I really appreciate it. I'll save it on my channel. So guys, please follow Claire. Check out her classes. They're amazing. And stay tuned. Who knows? Claire could be back for more.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for having me on here.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right. Have a great day, guys. Now that your neck is nice and loose. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.